Hey, Pretty Girl Club. So, you guys requested that I tell more personal story times, and I forgot about this story. I just thought about it. So I want to tell the story of how the girls in my apartment tried to get me kicked out. So the way that it works is I was in college, and you know how they have those college apartments? So the way that mine was, it was kind of like this boarding house. So it wasn't a dorm. They had like individual apartments, and each apartment had like maybe 6 rooms in it or like 5 rooms in it, 3 rooms in it. So each person had their own bedroom and bathroom, and like that's what you paid the rent for. And then you had a shared kitchen and living room area. And so the way that these college apartments were set up was they were already furnished and stuff. So they had like a couch and stuff out there. But as far as like your dishes and all that kind of stuff, you just bring your own. And then you could pay rent for like if you wanted a bigger room, you would have to pay more per month for that. And it was totally random, by the way. Like you could not choose who you were going to end up sharing your housing with. So think of it kind of like, you know how they have those dorms where it's like a single dorm room, except it was a little bit bigger than a dorm room. And then, yeah, there's just like a common kitchen area. So anyway, my room, it had like 2 other girls in it. And then sometimes other girls who lived on that floor, they would kind of like come socialize, knock on the door, just be nice to each other, make friends, whatever. So I had already lived in this little boarding house thing, and I had lived there for about maybe a year. And so the way it works is like when somebody new moves in, you don't necessarily know that someone new has moved in because everybody has their own separate rooms and bathrooms and stuff. These apartment buildings were more for upperclassmen, and some of the people in these apartments were like graduating seniors or they were like in grad school. So people could be any age living in these apartments. So it's not like it wasn't quite like the college dorms where you can just go right next door and just knock on their door and then they have like a roommate in there. It wasn't like that. It was definitely more closed off, similar to like if you would rent a room on Craigslist or something and it's like a boarding house. So, anyway, when I was in college, that was when I got one of my first journalism jobs. So, I had a very professional job working for an internationally known news station. So, this was like the best job I had ever had in my life. That actually was not my only job. You guys know that I'm the type of person where when I was in school, I was working about 35 hours a week, and then I was also going to class full time. So, I was hardly ever in my little apartment thing. So I ended up finding out that this one girl moved into my same little apartment thing, and she lived in one of the other rooms, kind of like down the hall. And this was a girl that I had known of. I didn't know her personally, but she had the same major as me in college, or like she was in the same school. You know how when you're at university, they have like the School of Engineering, the School of Mathematics, whatever your major is. So she was in the same school as me, but we didn't have like the same exact classes or anything. But I knew her name because some of my acquaintances knew her and some of her acquaintances knew me. So it was that sort of thing. And also, for reference, when I was in college, I was apparently considered to be popular. I didn't even know it was possible to be popular in a college, so I didn't take it seriously. I was like, this is a joke. Like, people are very, like, they were just acting very high school. But the reason that people tried to say that I was somehow popular was because I was in all of these different clubs and stuff. I like did student council and things like that. And then because on Instagram, like apparently I had a lot of followers compared to other people because this was back when Instagram was becoming a thing. It was back when Instagram modeling was becoming a thing. So because I did my little modeling stuff at that time, I used to take Instagram a little bit more seriously. Do you remember when Instagram and Tumblr were like a thing? So yeah, this was back in those days. So anyway, apparently that made me quote unquote popular, but I never thought anything of it. I never called myself that because I genuinely did not care. I just needed to get a job and like make it through college. But I will say that I went to an HBCU and I did experience different people like maybe pedestalizing me or fetishizing me. It could have been for various reasons. So I do think some of it was definitely they were colorist and stuff, but I think other reasons could have been, maybe being well known on campus or maybe they had a crush or something. I don't know. I never really thought that deeply into it. I definitely didn't think, oh my God, I'm better than others. I wasn't thinking about that because I knew college is only temporary. You're only in college for like 4 years and then you just move on with your life. So, like, who cares? It's literally like a second high school. So, who cares? This is only 4 years of my life. I'm going to move on after this. So, this one girl who moved into the apartment room down the hall, let's call her Samantha. So Samantha was an unambiguous girl. So she was a pageant queen. Oh my god, I forgot. Okay, I'm going to title this video Unambiguous Pageant Queen Tries to Get Me Kicked Out of My Apartment. So she was an unambiguous pageant queen. So she had done so many pageants. She was from the South. I thought she was very pretty. She looked kind of like a mix between Marsai Martin and JT from the City Girls. So I thought she was very pretty. I never thought she was ugly, never called her ugly or anything like that. So anyway, I didn't know that she had moved in. In fact, I didn't know who any of the other girls were that were like living in the apartment thing because I didn't hear anybody and I didn't see anybody. Because like when it came to the common areas and these little boarding house things, nobody really comes out to the common area because it's kind of like weird. So I was just minding my business. And next thing I know, these two girls come out to the kitchen area when I was in there making my fruit smoothies. And then I was like, oh, hey, like you guys moved in. And they were like, oh, hey, like, how are you? You know, nice to meet you. Good to see you. And I was like, oh, yeah, you know, I live a couple of doors down. So, you know, and I was just being nice and friendly. But I wasn't always home. And apparently these girls, when I wasn't home, apparently they were like hanging out and like having these girls' nights and stuff. I never knew about any girls' nights because nobody had like asked me or anything. And plus, I was just working, so I would usually get out of bed at 5 a.m. This is back when I was obsessed with like productivity and all that. So I'd wake up at 5 a.m., do my little workouts, go to class all day, and then come back home and change so that I could go to work that evening. And I had to take the train and stuff, so I was just constantly gone. And apparently, after a few months, they started accusing me of being stuck up or whatever, just basic, the typical stereotypes. And so I was trying to be nicer because I was like, oh, you know, maybe they think I'm stuck up. Okay, well, let me put in some more effort. So sometimes I would even cook for these girls. Mind you, we're all paying our own rent. We're all paying our own bills. All of the pots and pans and dishes and stuff, you had to purchase those things on your own. So I was cooking for everybody in there. This is back when I was more of a people pleaser because I was still Christian at that time. So I was trying to cook for these girls and like be super nice to them. And then I noticed over time that these girls started using my stuff, like my dishes, and it would have been fine if you used like my pots and pans and silverware and blender. It would have been fine if like you used it and cleaned it out and put it back where it belonged. But one girl, she used my skillet and she burnt the shit out of my skillet. So it was literally black. Like, you know how skillets get burnt with like food and stuff on it? So she burned it. And then not only did she not wash it, but she tried to hide it underneath the cabinet. So I remember the next time I came home, I was about to cook my morning omelet. And then I was like, wait, where's my skillet? And I was looking all through the cabinets like, how could I lose a skillet? And then I saw this dirty ass burnt up skillet in the back of the cabinet. And I was like, this is weird. Like, what the heck? So after that, I was like, hey, if you guys use my stuff, can you just make sure to like wash it off or whatever? Or like if you burn something, can you just tell me? And then I can just get a new skillet if I need to. Looking back, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have let them use any of my shit. But anyway, this stuff kept happening where like my skillets would get burnt. Some of my stuff would go missing. And it's like, who takes dishes? So, like I said, the way that you did it was like you had your own little apartment room with like your own bathroom, but some people had little hot plates in their rooms or like microwaves in there, little refrigerators in there. So people could technically cook something small in their room without using the kitchen. People used to do that all the time. So some of my dishes and stuff and like my cooking utensils would start to go missing, like all my little spatulas and knives and stuff. So then I was like, okay, maybe people are mixing up dishes because everybody would put their different dishes in the cabinet. So the way it was set up was like they had so many different cabinets in the common area. So you could label your cabinet area. Some people would like try to lock their cabinets, or they would try to install a lock on there. But most people didn't install locks. And so I started labeling my stuff that was in the fridge. I would just put my initials on it or something so that people don't get it mixed up and accidentally maybe take my stuff. Because at that time, I was trying to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, maybe this girl thought that it was her skillet and she burnt it up or whatever. So no big deal. I will just try to label mine or like write with a Sharpie on there. So I started doing that. And apparently that was like rude of me to do. And so then other girls, they also started labeling their stuff, which once again, didn't think that it was a big deal because I only touch my stuff. Whenever I go into a common area, whether it's at work or anywhere where there's like a shared refrigerator, I only get what is mine and what I purchased. But I understand that maybe we all shop at the same grocery stores. Oh, and another thing that happened was I noticed that one of the girls, she started copying my diet. So I've talked about this before where I've had people try to copy my diet before because I would wake up and I would make these fruit smoothies. I would make like blueberry smoothies, just like really yummy looking smoothies. And so I noticed that one girl, she started trying to buy smoothie stuff, which was fine, but she bought the same frozen stuff as me, like same brand, same everything. So I started labeling my stuff that I bought in the fridge as well. Or I mean in the freezer. I started labeling my frozen berries that I was using for my smoothies and stuff just so nobody gets it mixed up since my stuff was already being burnt and going missing. So the first thing that happened was this one girl, so not the pageant queen, but this other girl, she accused me of stealing her yogurt. So I think I might have told this story before where she kept accusing me of stealing her yogurt and using it in my smoothies. I do not put yogurt in my smoothies, especially not Yoplait yogurt. I do not like dairy. Dairy is not good for you. And so she kept accusing me to the point where I finally got fed up. And I was like, first of all, yogurt causes acne, it bloats your stomach, and makes you fat. So no, I didn't steal your yogurt. Okay, so yeah, that was kind of a bitchy response. Like, I'll give it to her, like, that was a bitchy response, but I also don't regret it because you don't just walk around falsely accusing people of stealing your stuff and then kind of throwing your weight around. So this girl, I'm not trying to be mean, but she looked like a refrigerator. Like, as far as body type, she had like the linebacker body type. So she was she was one of those girls that would try to kind of bully people with her weight. And at the time, I was very, very skinny and tall and like, kind of like probably weak looking in her eyes. So I felt like because of the way I carry myself and because I just probably came off as very dainty and soft and feminine, that she was trying to almost like gangster me or gangster her way into bullying me. Because remember, I went to an HBCU. So some of these girls, they would brag about where they were from. People loved bragging to me about being from Brooklyn or being from the south side of Chicago or like all these random places. So I was used to this type of behavior. So that's why I made the comment about the whole yogurt. Like, if I'm going to steal something, why would I steal yogurt? Like, no, why would I steal something that is going to make my beauty go down? And also, since that girl had more of the refrigerator body shape, she was probably offended because I talked about how bad yogurt is and how it makes people fat, like the Yoplait yogurt with all the sugar and dairy. If you want to get yogurt, you should get like maybe the coconut type of yogurt or something that's just more healthy. Greek yogurt, anything other than a sugary ass Yoplait yogurt. I didn't say all that, but I was thinking it. So she was probably offended because, her body shape was more refrigerator-like, and according to her, she probably saw me as like just being very skinny and in shape, which I was, but I didn't like being accused of stealing. So next thing I know, these girls, like 2 or 3 girls teamed up and they all started to like dislike me collectively. And like I said, for the most part, I was not even home. So they didn't have any like thing to beef with me about. And I literally would come home, I would do my laundry, and then I would like go to my room and go to sleep. And so I remember one of them, she tried to accuse me of like hogging the laundry area. So there's more than one washer and dryer. Like they had a whole laundromat in there. So there were so many different options for doing laundry. These buildings had laundromats in them. Some of the units had washers and dryers in them. Or you could literally leave the whole building and go to the laundromats across the street. And so that's what I used to do sometimes. Like if all the laundry areas are being taken up by others, then I will just go to a laundromat and do my stuff there. But I noticed that they tried to accuse me of constantly hogging up the laundry. And so then I was like, okay, you know what? I won't do as much laundry. Like I will have a schedule for myself and like only do it, maybe once a week or once every couple of days. Looking back, I shouldn't have even done that. Like I shouldn't have accommodated these people. But so me not doing as much laundry, that still wasn't enough because then these girls tried to complain and say that I was making too much noise. And I was like, oh, okay, like, what noise am I making? Because I don't have speakers, I don't do loud music. And they were like, oh, it's the sound of your blender, like when you're doing your smoothies. And I was like, okay, so I'm not doing the smoothie at night or anything. Like I'm literally just doing these smoothies in the afternoon. So it's like, when can I do these smoothies? And then one of them was like, "Oh, well, you do it in the morning sometimes when I'm still sleeping, and like I don't need to be hearing a smoothie blender sound." And I was like, "Okay, I'll do it at night." But then this other girl was like, "Oh no, because that's when I go to sleep. I go to sleep at like 9 p.m. So no, I don't want to hear the smoothie blender sound as well." And so the way that I did it was I started making my smoothies weekly. And I was like, okay, I will do it on Sunday afternoons, and then I'll have my smoothies for maybe the next 3 or 4 days, and then maybe Wednesday afternoon I will make my other smoothies. So I found a way around it to where it was like a compromise. So I had all my little fruit smoothies labeled in the fridge, and part of me feels like them seeing my name or my initials labeled on everything in the fridge. I don't know if they felt triggered by that or if they felt like, fuck this bitch, like she has all these smoothies and shit. She has like all these skillets and everything. So I don't know if that was like triggering them or what. But then I was accused of stealing again. This time I was accused of stealing something out of someone's room. And I was thinking, okay, now you're taking it too far. Like, not only do I not have access to people's rooms, but they have cameras, they have cameras in this building everywhere. Like, come on, this is just getting ridiculous at this point. Basically, anytime somebody couldn't find something, they would try to say somebody stole it and like it must have been me. And I think part of it was because I was just never there, like I was never home. And then, so Miss Pageant Queen, who I thought would be cool with me, because I was thinking, she's a pageant queen, like I think she's very pretty, she seems pretty chill or whatever. She actually became like the leader in this gossip movement against me because I remember one time I was at home. They didn't know that I had just got into my apartment. I got off work early that day, and I actually overheard them talking in the kitchen, like talking shit about me basically, and about how I'm apparently stuck up or like I get on their nerves. And it literally escalated to the point where they actually reported me to the owners of the building. Like they reported me to the leasing, like those companies that own a bunch of apartment buildings and stuff. So they reported me to the freaking owner of the building. And then they were like, "Oh, excuse me, can I have like a meeting with you about your lease and about like your living situation?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what happened? Like, did I not pay the rent or something? Or did you lose a money order or something?" And she was like, "Oh no, you've been reported for bullying." And I was like, "I'm sorry, what? Like, who am I bullying? Like, what are you talking about? I barely even see anyone here." And then she was like, "Oh, Samantha, the pageant queen girl, she has reported you for bullying." And I was thinking, wait a minute. The girl who was the one accusing me of stealing, the main one was actually the other girl. It wasn't even the pageant girl. But okay. And then this lady, like the apartment lease owner, she was like, "Yeah, she's accusing you of bullying her. And usually if we get a report of bullying, people can get kicked out of the building or they may have to move to a different unit. And this girl, she has said that the bullying that you're doing of her is so bad to the point where she wants to move apartments. Like that's how bad your harassment is of her." And I was like, did she give any examples? Because I don't know if she has me mixed up with someone else. Because like I said, I barely ever talked to these girls, like whatsoever. Like I remember thinking about it. I was like, I have talked to these girls probably less than 5 minutes for the entire time I've lived here over the last 6 months. Like I remember thinking that. I was like, there's nothing that they could possibly say that would say that I'm harassing them. And then she was like, "Oh, well, she didn't give examples of like your harassment and bullying of her." And I was like, "Okay, well, can we have a meeting?" I was like, "Can we have a meeting with me, you, and whoever's accusing me of harassing?" So if it's Samantha, I would like Samantha to be here. If it's Samantha trying to accuse me on behalf of someone else, I would like anyone that is falsely accusing me to have a meeting and you can mediate it because I would love to hear what exactly I did wrong. And so this lady organized the meeting And then it was just Samantha, the pageant one. And I was thinking, okay, is this because I'm labeling my stuff? Is this because I'm like, I don't know, like maybe they just think I'm being mean because I didn't like how my thing was burnt? Because I've never said anything to them in a mean tone. I'm not the type that's like going to try to fight people or anything at all. And any problems I had with them, it was mainly sent via text message, or, sometimes I would say stuff in person if they were talking to me, but it was never like a beefing type of thing. Like, even when we all set boundaries with one another, it was very laughy, like we were laughing and like smiling and like, oh yeah, we're just gonna label everything and it's not a problem, and yeah, I don't want anyone using my stuff. And it was said in more of a nice tone. It wasn't said like in a mean tone or anything like that. It was literally just like an adult conversation, like making boundaries. But we were in our teens and 20s. I was about 21 probably, and these girls were probably about 21 as well. So people weren't the most mature. And so I remember we had this meeting, and I had just got back from work. So I was wearing my cute little work outfit. I had my little suit on. I just got done coming back from my little journalism thing that I was doing at the time, one of my jobs that I had. So I had my little badge on. I'll be honest, it was probably a flex, or she probably viewed it as a flex, because at that time, that girl, she wanted to do like the journalism type of stuff, because I knew her because she was friends with my friends who were into journalism. So the way that I ended up going into like news and all of that, it was actually kind of by stumbling upon it. It was because I told you guys I used to do video editing and stuff, and people at one of the news stations, they were like, you're good at editing. And long story short, I kind of fell into it. You could say it was privilege. I mean, I'm not going to deny that. It could have totally been that. But part of me does feel like this girl could have potentially been jealous of my career, like the stuff that I had going for myself or whatever. And I was very surprised and very hurt that this pageant girl would try to report me, because I had never in my 3 years of like knowing of her, I had never gossiped about her. I had never said anything bad about her. In fact, I was in my overcompensating phase at that time of people pleasing everyone. And honestly, I feel like that was probably part of the reason why I was seen as popular, was because I was people pleasing everybody so much and like being overly nice to everyone, to the point where everybody like liked me or whatever. And I was a Christian at that time. So I didn't even believe in like cursing. Like, I didn't curse, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't have sex. I was a virgin at the time. So there was literally nothing that I was doing to purposely harm anyone. I will say, if people start bullying me, then I can become more assertive. But when I assert myself, usually I don't assert myself by name calling. Like, think of the way people in the hood assert themselves versus people like a Karen at a job or something. So if I am asserting myself, usually it's more of like a nice, nasty, or, nothing where I'm like directly name calling or threatening to fight people or anything like that. So I was actually hurt that this pageant girl would like try to kind of bash me or get me kicked out of this place, because she had known of me and she was friends with my best friend at the time. Like, she was kind of acquaintances or whatever, or friends with my best friend. And it's funny because my best friend at that time, she knew Samantha, and my friend had told me about a year prior. She was like, oh yeah, Samantha, by the way, this girl Samantha she was one of the leaders of the Christian church organization on campus. So you know how they have like little Bible studies, or like the church choirs and all that. They have like church services on college campuses. So she was one of the leaders of the Christian organizations. And I actually remember my best friend at the time complaining that she was just being a mean girl in the church, which now I'm not surprised by, because the church is full of like lots of mean girls. But anyway, so I had actually heard bad stuff about her, but I didn't gossip about her or anything, because I was like, you know what, maybe she was having a bad day or something. Like, I'm not the type that believes negative gossip about people's character. So even when I knew that she was going to be living a few doors down from me, I still didn't even judge her negatively. So anyway, this leasing manager, she was like, okay, so Samantha, you reported her for like bullying and harassment to the point where you feel like one of you guys is going to have to move out. So can you tell the story of like what she did to harass? And I could not wait to hear it. And so I just looked over like, yeah, what's your story? I didn't say that, but I was thinking it. So she was like, oh, well, she's never actually said anything to me directly. And then the lady was kind of confused, like, wait, what? And then me and the lady were both looking at each other like, yeah, this is definitely a waste of time. And then this girl, she's like, oh, yeah, it's not what she says. It's kind of like how she says it. And then I calmly said, I was like, can you give me an example of exactly what I said and like what tone I said it into you? Because I knew she wouldn't have an answer because I had never even really spoken to her like that. And then she brought that up. She was like, well, okay, it's not what you say because like you haven't really said anything to me, but it's more so like just how you act and like what you do. And I was like, okay, can you give me an example of how I've acted or what I have done to make you feel bullied or harassed? And then she was like, well, it's just because me and the other girls, like, we like to watch TV and stuff and we like to hang out and you're just never there. And I was like, okay, like I'm not sure how that's bullying or harassing, but I go to school full time and I also do have a job. I actually just came from my job just now. Like I literally just got off the bus so that I could come here to meet with you guys. So is that all? Like, so because I don't watch TV, that equals bullying to the point where I need to move. And I didn't even say it like that. I actually said it way calmer and way nicer because that was when I was more Christian. And she was like, well, I mean, it's just because like of the things I've heard about you. And then I was like, oh, okay. So like, what have you heard about me? And then the lady was like, yeah, what have you heard about her? Like, are you going based on gossip? Like people talk bad about her, so now you just don't like her randomly without even knowing her. And then this girl, she was so dumb that she exposed herself. Because when the lady was like, have you just heard negative things about her and you're going based on gossip? And this girl was so dumb, she was like, no, actually, I've heard wonderful things about her. I've heard that she's actually like a really nice, really great person. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, if that's not jealousy, if that is not extreme jealousy, to the point where literally, not only did I not say anything to you, not only did I not harass you or anyone else, you didn't even hear negative gossip about me. You didn't even have any preconceived reasons as to why you would not like me. And now I'm being reported and I'm sitting here in a pointless meeting so that she can say that she's heard great things about me. Are you kidding me right now? Like, that's literally what I was thinking. I was like, are you kidding me? So I'm here in this meeting. You're trying to get me kicked out because I'm the opposite of what you thought I was. I didn't say anything like that. But even the lady was like, okay, so, you said that she was bullying you and harassing you to the point where, like, you wanted to move. So she was not bullying you. And then this girl just kept talking in circles like, no, I mean, she wasn't directly bullying me. I mean, I just feel like she just thinks she's better. It was literally like textbook talking points. And then once again, I was like, so can you name anything that I've done to like think that I'm better or to show that I think I'm better? And basically what it was that was showing that I was thinking I'm better is the doing laundry thing, the making smoothies thing, and that's pretty much it. And just not watching TV with them. So literally, because I have clean clothes, because I have a job and I'm never there to watch TV, and because I make smoothies and pre-make them so that you can't complain about me or whatever, then suddenly that makes me somehow stuck up. So anyway, the lady knew that it was some bullshit. She knew that like that this girl was just basically jealous. So then the lady was like, oh, can you, is there a way you can just give Exoticals United a chance? Because it sounds like you actually don't really know her and you're just kind of like judging what she does or kind of reading into it when she's not really doing anything. So can you give Exoticals United a chance and like, we'll just scrap this and nobody has to move or anything. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like I would love for her to give me a chance because, I've never actually done anything to her and she doesn't actually know me. So yeah, I would love that. And then this girl, she's like, oh yeah, that's fine. Like, yeah, I'll just give her a chance. Like, not a big deal. And so this meeting was over. Nobody had to move out. And then we go back to our little apartments and stuff. And then as time goes on, this girl continues gossiping about me. She continues saying that I apparently don't speak to nobody. It's literally every light-skinned stereotype that you can think of. I was meeting every single stereotype. I was being stuck up and I was not speaking to anybody. Those were the main complaints. And I didn't like this because at this point, this girl's already reported me once when I barely even knew her. She had no grounds for reporting me. And then afterwards, even though she told the lady, I'm going to give her a chance, everything's going to be fine, now she's still trying to basically socially sabotage me. So anytime a new person would move into that little boarding house thing, she would immediately try to go and talk shit because that person would come back to me and say, oh yeah, Samantha was saying that like you're mean or whatever, but you seem really cool. Like you seem really down to earth. And it's so funny because even that term down to earth, people have said to me, you seem very down to earth. And they're like shocked. They're shocked that I'm down to earth. And I'm like, I have wondered, like, is this based on skin tone stereotypes? Like you're associating light skin with like being this feminine, because I told you guys that people would make fun of me at my HBCU and they would call me Hillary as like a joke. Like, oh, it's Hillary. Like, or the guys would try to say it as like a flirty thing, but then it's like they would call us names like Hillary or bougie, like not just me, but even other girls who had a similar phenotype, we would get called bougie. I had never seen them calling unambiguous people bougie. So it's like, okay, throughout my time at this college, I've been called bougie, I've been called Hillary as a nickname, and I've been told I don't speak to nobody, which is something I've been told multiple times. And then I'm being accused of being stuck up now that I'm here living in this little apartment. So yes, I did think, I wonder if this has anything to do with my phenotype. And then I noticed that gradually over time, the dishes out of my cabinet, so I purposely went to Target, and you know how they have like gold silverware, or they have like these little plastic plates and stuff that you can get in different colors. So I specifically went to Target. I had purchased myself some new kitchenware, and I specifically bought it in a color to where it's like, nobody is going to have this exact combination of colors where it's like you have gold forks and spoons, then you have navy blue plates, and then you have pink bowls. Nobody else is doing all of that in terms of like what kitchenware they buy. So I remember buying new kitchenware, and I remember my kitchenware started to go missing. And so I was like, okay, no worries. Like, I'm just going to keep all of my dishes and silverware and stuff in my room, because I told you guys how in some of these little small apartments, people had like refrigerators in their rooms, microwaves in their rooms, hot plates. You know how you can get that little stove where it's just like one stove thing. So I had all that stuff in there anyway. So I was like, I'll just keep my stuff kind of like to myself or whatever. And then if someone wants to use it, they can ask. And then I can do a better job of keeping track of like all my dishes and stuff, because they seem to keep on going missing. And so then once again, word gets back to me that Samantha, the pageant queen, was mad because she went in the kitchen and was attempting to use my silverware and stuff that was in my drawer. Because remember, we all had our own like stuff labeled or whatever, kind of like how you would at a job, like where people put their initials on stuff. So apparently, she was like very mad because I had taken my silverware and like, kept it in my area. And so the pageant queen and the other friend who was also accusing me of taking like the yogurt and all that, so they ended up teaming up once again, and they tried to report me again. And they tried to report me this time of stealing something from inside of one of the girls' rooms. She tried to say I stole something that was like pretty big. Like I think it was either like a broom or a mop or something where it's like, okay, really? This would be extremely obvious if somebody stole something that big. And I remember I told the lady, I was like, do you want to search my room? I was like, do you want to search my apartment? You are free to search my apartment. And then the girl, and then Miss Pageant Queen, she jumped in again, even though this was not her fight or whatever. She jumped in and she was like, oh, you probably stole the stuff and like sold it online. And I was like, really? Who steals something like a broom or a mop? Because I remember it was some sort of cleaning thing, like something really big that you would clean, like, those Swiffer things, or like the brooms or the little mops with like a little bucket thing. I'm like, who would steal that and then sell a used mop or a used Swiffer thing online? So anyway, I was like, yeah, you guys are free to search my room. And then this pageant girl tried to say, oh, you probably took it and like sold it online. And then the lady finally was like, okay, do you guys need to just separate, or does somebody need to move out? And then the pageant queen, she was like, oh yeah, I need to move out because she's one of these types. She's crazy. Like, she seems like one of those types of girls that would like hover over you when you're sleeping and like try to stab you and stuff. So she was trying to make it as if, I'm sorry, but I really did. I was thinking, does she think I'm doing Creole voodoo or something? I'm sorry. I did think that because I was like, why is she trying to make me look like I'm just some crazy psycho light skin that's just going to hover over her at night or try to like, and she was also very Christian. I was also Christian as well. And she actually knew this. But she was trying to make it as if I'm a crazy psycho killer demonic type of girl that would like hover over people in their sleep or try to like spy on people and shit. Like, she was giving me way more power than I actually had. So anyway, long story short, Miss Refrigerator actually ended up moving out. And so then it was no longer like a problem because Miss Pageant Queen, she didn't have anything to try to instigate, because Miss Refrigerator, she was more of the type where she constantly suspects people of trying to like go against her and stuff. You know, those girls that it's like, why are you looking at me crazy? Then they automatically want to fight you and stuff. So Miss Refrigerator was more like that type. But once Refrigerator moved out, then Miss Pageant Queen, she tried to calm down after that because she didn't have like this barking dog on her behalf. Because that's kind of how she treated Miss Refrigerator. She would try to instigate between me and Miss Refrigerator in hopes that she could, I guess, somehow put me down or something. So the next time I saw Miss Pageant Queen was during the graduation. And I remember her like looking over at me and basically kind of like being ashamed or whatever. And I just ignored her. But I thought that was very extreme. Like, who wants to get someone kicked out of an entire apartment? Like, you want me to be homeless because I didn't watch TV with you? Or because I just act stuck up? Whatever that means. Even though I never said anything directly stuck up towards her. With the other girl, you could argue that my comment about the yogurt, you could argue that was stuck up. Like, you could. But towards her, no. And the only time that I did that with the other girl with the yogurt was because she was constantly accusing me of stealing when I wasn't. And I felt bullied. I don't like when people try to randomly accuse me of shit that I didn't do. And then now you're mad at me over something I didn't even do. And then you're continuously antagonizing me. No, eventually I'm going to say something. But I've noticed a lot of people stereotype light-skinned, feminine, pretty women as, being soft, which is not a bad thing. Like, I like being seen as soft. But I've noticed some people, they try to use it as, you must also be weak then. Because, you're just a pretty girl. You don't want your face to get cut. You don't want your nose to get broken. You don't want your pretty little hair to get pulled. So I feel like some women use that as a way to try to bully and punk you. And they want to try to intimidate you or something by getting you to think that they could easily beat you up. Which technically, I guess maybe they could have. But that was one of my more extreme story times. I just thought that, wow, like the jealousy level must be extreme. Oh, and another thing I forgot to say, she had blocked me. She randomly blocked me on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So once we solved the whole thing with like, when she couldn't report me, and then she was like, oh, I'll give it a chance, it'll be fine. I thought we were cool after that. I thought we were friends and we were going to be cool because like we had each other's numbers and stuff. And then I remember she had blocked me on like Instagram and Facebook. And so then I was thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe she had blocked me before when she was mad. But still, it's like we weren't even friends. I had never even tried to add her because that's how irrelevant she was in my life. Like, I didn't even care or like think about her. I was thinking about work and stuff. So I had never even tried to add her. So I was thinking, wow, she must have like gone in the search bar. You had to type my name in on like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, specifically so you could block me. And by the way, that is not the first time that this has happened with an unambiguous woman. Wait, did I tell the story about the unambiguous girl that I met? Like, she already had me blocked before I even met her in person? If I didn't tell that story, I definitely need to tell that story. The one who tried to cock block me from like talking to this MLS guy who ended up becoming my boyfriend. I don't know if I told that story on here, but if I didn't, let me know if you want to hear that story, because that's another story I have with an unambiguous woman. But yeah, so that was what happened. I was randomly blocked. I was accused of bullying and harassing. I can admit if I'm bullying and harassing. But in that scenario, no, I actually wasn't. I was just minding my own business, and I was just never home. And so because I was never there or never around and no one saw me, apparently that made it to where you could talk about me. And also, I feel like it could have potentially been because sometimes I would have friends come over, like girlfriends. They would come over, or like occasionally I would hang out with a guy or something. So I don't know if maybe they would hear my footsteps in the hall because I was the only one that would wear heels. So you know how heels are like really loud when you're walking down the hall. So I don't know if like they heard me sometimes when I was bringing my friends over, or like if I was with some guy or something like that. But it's not like I was sleeping with any of those guys. Like I said, I was a virgin at that time. I was very devoutly Christian. But I don't know if that could have influence their perception of me, like, oh, who does she think she is, just walking around in her little heels and like, having fun with her friends, and meanwhile I'm not doing that. I don't know if that could have been a trigger, but what do you ladies think? Has this ever happened to you? Have you ever had people randomly falsely accuse you of shit, or like if one person doesn't like you, suddenly this other girl who is like a fake ass friend, she comes out of the woodworks and she's like, oh, you don't like Exoticals United? Oh my god, I don't like her either. And then they somehow figure out a way to like team up against you. What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.